at the Capitol. Zania, can you update us on what people are saying there?
Well, Jen, as you said, Senator Bradley represents the 23rd district here in Connecticut. But following those federal criminal charges he is facing, Senate President Martin Looney is taking action. In fact, right now, the Senate is in session. Currently, take a live look, and Senator Bradley is not there due to his arrest. Now, Senate President Looney announced he has removed Bradley as Senate Chair of the Public Safety and Security Committee. Taking his place will be Senator Kathy Osteen of the 19th District. She will be acting chair of the committee pending the results of Bradley's criminal charges. Now, additionally, Bradley has been stripped of his remaining committee assignments. He will no longer serve as Senate Vice Chair of the Committee on Children or as a member on any of his current committees. Looney has also rescinded Bradley's appointment as Deputy Majority Leader. He says based on the current available information regarding Bradley, he calls these decisions the first step in protecting the integrity of the state Senate. Now, moments ago, we also received this statement from the governor's office regarding State Senator Bradley's arrest. The statement reads, quote, Governor Lamont is aware of the serious allegations against Senator Bradley and is supportive of the actions taken by Senate President Martin Looney. And as you just saw, the state Senate is currently in session, so we are hoping to get some reaction from state senators on Bradley's arrest and bring that to you. But for now, we're live at the state capitol. Zania Maldonado, Fox 61 News.